The Cyberstrike structure deck was released of October of this year, and at first glance, the structure deck had very little to offer. When the structure deck finally made it to the shelves and into our hands, most of us were pretty much excited for the one and only card that could search Power Bond, add that to our hand. Most of us even believe that the rest of the cards were only good for Cyberdarks, and even that was underwhelming. After a couple of days with some of the new cards, I released a deck profile that I personally felt like was going to be the most optimal. But now that a few months had gone by with these cards in our possession, it gave us a lot more time to really experiment and test out new theories and new ideas that can take this deck to new heights. But before we even go further into it, I want to remind you guys that I do stream on Twitch, link in the description below. I stream Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 8 p.m. So I look forward to seeing a lot of you guys there. If you have any questions, feel free to hit the chat and I'd be more than happy to answer them. Friends, my name is GIGO, put it together and it is pronounced Gigo, and in this video I have a new deck profile that showcases not only the new cards that came from out of that structure deck, but a whole new mechanic that I didn't think was going to be possible until we have these new cards. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. So to start this profile off, we have 2 copies of the OG Cyber Dragon. We run 3 copies of Cyber Dragon Core. We have 3 copies of Cyber Dragon Hertz. And then at last 2 copies of Cyber Dragon Nasher. That is it for the Cyber Dragons. Going into the non-Cyber Dragon cards, I run 2 copies of Galaxy Soldier, 2 copies of Cyber Dark Claw, 1 copy of Cyber Dark Cannon, and then 1 copy of Cyber Dark Chimera. On top of that, we run our 1 copy of Mecha Phantom Beast Warblorin, and then last we do run 3 copies of the Ash Blossom, and that pretty much wraps up the monster lineup in the main deck. Going into the spells, I currently run 2 copies of Cyber Emergency. I don't run 3 primarily because this deck has so much search power already, so I feel like 2 is perfectly enough. On top of that, we have 2 copies of Repair Plant. Most people run 1. That's perfectly fine. That's entirely up to you. I run 3 copies of Cybernetic Horizon. This card is actually relatively important because this card essentially fuels the grave, sets you up for a Cyber Dark Fusion, and kind of like reloads your hands with better cards. The 1 copy of Cyber Dark Realm. This is also a great Cyber Dark Searcher, and this is also a great second normal summon for you. And then the 1 copy of Rev System. I'll be honest, originally I didn't think I was going to like this card in the deck. However, the more I started playing with it, the more I started falling in love with it. 3 copies of Machine Dupe. Fun fact, a lot of people don't like playing Machine Dupe. A lot of people do like playing Machine Dupe. If you're one of those that don't like playing Machine Dupe and you have the money or the cards, you can, play the Dragoon package or Destroyer Phoenix package. It's entirely up to you. I have the 1 copy of Overload Fusion, 1 copy of Power Bond, 1 copy of Monster Reborn, and then 1 copy of Called by the Grave. I play Overload Fusion over Cyberload Fusion just because I've found the need of trying to use materials from my grave more than from what's already banished. So it made more sense for me personally to play Overload over Cyberload. And that pretty much rounds up all of the spells. Going into the trap card lineup, only 4 cards, of course, my 3 copies of Impermanence, and then the 1 copy of Cybernetic Overflow. All right, going into the extra deck, this one's a bit of a doozy, but I run 1 copy of Infinity, 1 copy of Nova, and then 1 copy of Vemina. Most people play 2 Novas, 1 Infinity. I don't know if a lot of people play 1 copy of Vemina. However, in my personal opinion, the state of the game is just so fast that you only realistically need 1. However, it just ultimately just depends on how you play the deck. That can dictate if you're going to need 2 copies of Nova, 2 copies of Infinity, and so on and so forth. So it's entirely up to you. But that is it for the Exceeds lineup. Going into the Link Monster lineup, I have 1 copy of Seeger, 1 copy of Predaplant Anaconda, and then the 1 copy of Mecha Phantom Beast Auroradon. Fun fact, this deck realistically does not need Anaconda. However, it's always a nice option to have, and that's what I try really hard to focus for the extra deck, is just having options to have. So bear that in mind. You don't need Anaconda in this deck, which is pretty nice for those budget builders. However, it's just a nice option to have. And for my Synchro lineup, That's right, we're running synchros in this build. I have one Clearwing Synchro Dragon, one Formula Synchron, and one super heavy Samurai Swordmaster Musashi. His name is always fun to say. Anyways, you're probably wondering how the heck I get to these. I get to these essentially through Mecha Phantom Beast Auroradon. For those who do not know what Auroradon does, when he is link summoned, you special summon 3 tokens. You contribute 1 to pop a card. You contribute 2 to special summon a Mecha Phantom Beast from deck. You contribute 3 to retrieve a trap card that is in the grave. So you can only imagine what I use this card for. Tribute 2, and I get my Warblorin. So with that, I can synchro into Formula Synchron. Synchron allows me to draw 1 extra card, and depending on the situation, I can use Warblorin's effect to special summon another token, and this can actually set me up for a level 8 synchro play, or I can choose to not activate Warblorin's effect and go into super heavy Swordmaster Musashi, which enables me to retrieve a machine from my grave and add it back to my hand. So these cards essentially help me reload my hand. And on top of that, if I do have a second level 5 monster already on the field, which commonly can happen in this deck, he is a level 5 machine, which enables me to put up Infinity and Vemina at the same time. And sometimes you can even get Vemina, Infinity, and Cyber Darkness Dragon, which we can visit in here in a sec. So going into my fusions, we're going to start off with the Cyber Dark stuff, just because I started talking about it in the last scene there. Cyber Darkness Dragon, 1 copy. This card I think is heavily slept on because of the 1 copy of Cyber Dark End Dragon. So Cyber Darkness Dragon actually has negation ability. And what's funny about it is it's not a once per turn, but we can talk a little bit more about that in a sec. I run the Cyber Dark End Dragon primarily for the Cybernetic Horizon spell. I dump him into the grave, making him the 5th Cyber Dark monster that I can use, that when I have Power Bond and I banish from grave, I banish all the Cyber Dark monsters, including him, to summon Cyber Darkness Dragon, and enables me to have 2, 3, 4, or 5 more negates, depending on how the board is built. Outside of that, I also have my 1 copy of Cyber Eternity Dragon. Normally people pitch this card off for Cybernetic Horizon. I feel like people are kind of falling asleep on this card, which is why everyone goes to pitch Eternity for the most part. My 2 copies of Rampage. To be quite honest with this build, you can live with 1 copy of Rampage, and the second copy in theory should be Armory Arm, which is really easy to pull off, especially if you're going to go the Cyber Darkness Dragon route as your alternative negation to complement Infinity on the board. To understand this is when Cyber Darkness is special summoned, he equips a machine or dragon from grave, and then he can essentially send an equip card we control to negate a card activation. Armory Arm allows itself to equip to another monster on the field, so that would give Cyber Darkness 2 negations. So Cyber Darkness with 2 negations on top of that with Infinity, and if you're able to have Vemina at the same time, that's 4 negations, plus you could either have an Ash Blossom or an Impermanence in hand. So negations for days. And then the 1 copy of Mega Fleet. That pretty much rounds up my fusion lineup. So I know a lot of you saw this deck profile and are left with 1,000 questions, especially with the whole synchro package being a part of this build. So if you guys are interested to see how the deck actually plays, again, feel free to join me on Twitch, link in the description below, or hit me up in the comment section. I'll be more than happy to do kind of like a walkthrough video of how this deck is played for you in the near future. Aside from that, I really do enjoy playing this deck. I'm a huge fan of Cyber Dragons, just as I'm sure a lot of you guys are. And I know that at some point in time, Cyber Dragons will climb up and claim will claim the throne once more, as they did when we had Orcus. In the build. So with that being said, it's been fun. It's been great. If you guys enjoyed the video, hit the like button. If you guys also just want to support the channel, hit the like button. If you guys are looking for more content like this, hit the subscribe, and I hope to see you all again in the next one.